Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of SEPA Paranormal Chronicles. My name's Lee. How could you forget? I'm the good-looking one tonight.
It's true.
Pause. It's true.
Very true.
Tonight, I have got Darkwoods Paranormal Podcast together. That is Raven Knight. That's the one with the beard. No, it's the other way around. Gabriel Von Graves is the one with the beard. Raven Knight's the one without the beard. Gabriel, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're super excited to be here.
Absolutely.
Actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, somebody's been texting me all day going, I'm really excited about tonight.
What time are we on again? That's
exactly what it was.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah,
How did you know that?
It's like, how could you not know what the time is? Come on.
I just wanted to make sure it was right. Listen, after some of the days I've been having lately, I was like, listen, let's verify. I want to make sure we are on the right page at the right time.
But the girl that I released tonight, that I interviewed on Tuesday, she's like the same. It's like, what is it with you Americans? It's like, what time am I coming on your show? Anyway,
you can't follow directions. That's what that is.
Can't tell time or do math.
That's right.
Is that math with 2 F's or with
with 3?
I can spell. Sort of. Most of the time.
Okay, kids. So, Darkwoods Paranormal Podcast. We're all in the same job, kinda. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about your very first paranormal experiences. So, Gabriel, shall we go ladies first?
Ladies first.
Okay, you start then.
Oh boy. Okay. So I love that. I get to go first. I was actually really into the paranormal as a kid. I did, and Gabriel always gives me a lot of grief for this, but I was the kid that liked the Ouija boards, that I did that kind of stuff. We and I always say sorry, Mom, here. We did seances in my parents' house, which may or may not be haunted now. Sorry, Mom. All that to be said, that was the stuff I was really interesting, right? And I was really into it. But I didn't really have my first experience that I would say was an actual paranormal experience. You know, we've had some things that kind of happened that could have or could not have been paranormal, but it was when I was in college. I worked at the college radio station, and that was up on the 3rd floor. And to give you the layout, I was in the newsroom, and then there was a kid that was DJing in the other room, and right between us was a great big window. So I could see him, he could see me. I'm doing some work, he's doing some work, and it's later in the day, so not a lot of people are around. You know, I pretty much lived at that radio station, but he was doing his thing, and all of a sudden, like out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody that looked like they walked by. So, you had the door. It looked like they walked by the door. The lights flickered at the same time. And both him and I kind of just like stopped and looked at each other. Like we knew something. It was weird. It was just a really weird thing that happened. And we couldn't really figure it out because you go down the hallway, and at the end of the hallway is a locked door. There's nowhere to go. You can't just, there was literally nowhere to go. So we both kind of looked at each other really strange. I got up, I went into the other room, and we both at the same time said, "Did you see that?" And we couldn't figure out what it was. We were just kind of like, that's really weird. But after that, like I said, I lived at that radio station. I would be up there. I think I had 5 shows or something during the week. Friday nights, instead of going out to the bar like everybody else, I lived at that station. Like I would leave at like midnight or whatever. So I'd be up doing the late show. I'm the only one in the building. And you'd hear footsteps and keys jingling. And when you go to turn like the mic's off at the end of the night, ready to leave, I'd turn around, the mic would be back on. Just stuff like that started happening. And you definitely just had that feeling that something was in there with you, or somebody was in there with you. Same thing, like sometimes if you'd leave, sometimes I'd have other people stop up. Of course, like friends would stop up at the station, and sometimes if they'd go out to go to the bathroom and they come back, that door would be locked. And I would say, oh, looks like somebody doesn't like you, because the door doesn't just lock by itself. It was just a very interesting experience. And so I have to backtrack a little bit before any of these activities started happening at the station. And I never put this together until like way after, years later. We had the dean of students. She was on her way to work one day and she got into a car accident and she died. And she actually, her office was on the first floor. And shortly after she died was when we started having experiences up in that radio station.
Wow.
So cool. I was pretty sure, like, I kind of put it together. I'm like, I think it could have been her. That was still there. And the funniest part of it wasn't just me. You know, I had experiences. A lot of other people that were up in that radio station had experiences too. So that was my very first experience.
And a couple of points to bring to that. Yeah, the fact is that two people saw something, which is always better than just one person seeing it. Because I saw a cloaked guy walking down the corridor, but if only I saw it, you guys are going to go, right, were you smoking, were you drinking, whatever. And it's sort of like there's less truth in it, but for more than one person to see something, that makes it more factual. It makes it more real that multiple people saw something.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's definitely the dean. Definitely the dean.
It was, and that's 100%. And it wasn't like it wasn't an ominous presence. It was just, you knew something was there and it would mess with the stuff. And sometimes you go, okay, I'm not in the mood tonight. Please just not tonight. And it wouldn't do anything. And then, the next time it might, some footsteps, keys jingling, whatever, and you, okay, I know you're here. And you just, it was a presence you knew was there, and you just didn't, it wasn't scary or threatening. So it was very interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. Okay, sir.
All right.
Over to you.
Well, mine is a little bit different than Raven's.
Bigfoot?
Yeah. Well, yeah. No hands. So as a young child, I always dreaded nightfall and going to sleep because I never felt truly alone. I always kind of saw images and shadow people. So I used to, I think I was 3 when this happened. I used to throw the covers over my head because, if I couldn't see them, they couldn't see me. But then they started, moving my bed and things started moving around my room. And I talked to my parents. And of course, they made me go talk to the minister because I was just seeking attention. So I learned to just, hide in my bed, And over time, I didn't sleep much as of a child because I was always scared. A little bit by little bit, in my bedroom, the closet would start opening up a little bit. And all of a sudden, hands would kind of come around. And then a couple months after that, after I started getting a little bit more, I was used to it. This lady would start peeking out of my closet. She had very, very long gray hair, and she was very pleasant to look like. She didn't look that old to me. Of course, I was young and everybody looks old, but she didn't look like a grandma. She just looked like a mother figure, kind of young. And as time went by, she would sit on the foot of my bed and rub my thigh, not in a sexual way, but as like a mothery, comforting way. And that used to comfort me. I used to go to sleep and I'd wake up refreshed. And fast forward about 10 years ago, I was sitting with my mom and we were going through a picture book of her memories. And this picture, all of a sudden she turned a page and I saw this woman. I'm like, that's the woman. And she goes, what? I said, that's the woman I told you as a child would come from my closet. And you guys never believed me. That's her. And I've never met her. And she goes, that's my grandma. So she lived in that house before my mom's parents did. And then, of course, we lived in it after my grandparents. So she was there just to comfort me. And ever since then, I think everybody still has the fears that they had when they were a child, right? I don't like nightfall, even though as an investigator, as we all know, everything happens during the day that's going to happen at night. We're just more acceptable for it at night because we're more relaxed and the outside influences are not there. So we're relying on, things that may or may not be there. Noises sound a little bit louder, that kind of thing. But I've always been able to walk into a room and know if someone passed there. I always call it the scent of death. I think when people die, they leave a portal, if you will. And, I can feel the presence of death in a room. And that's kind of what got me interested in the paranormal, not to figure out what it is, but I like mystery. I grew up with Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys and Scooby-Doo. So to me, life with the paranormal, life is kind of a mystery to me, and I enjoy that aspect because I don't think we will ever solve what paranormal is. But I think accepting that there is mystery in life, I think for me keeps life more interesting.
I cannot believe that this is the second podcast on the trot that Scooby-Doo's been mentioned. It's like, what is it? But yeah, it's like, it's always funny about, you mentioned Scooby-Doo, when you see the ghosts and then they pull off the hood, and I'd have got away with it if it hadn't been for you pesky kids. But you raised a good point there, Gabriel, the fact that you always used to hide under your bed sheets. And I was talking to somebody on a podcast a few weeks ago. It's like, how is a little piece of cloth this thick going to protect you from your worst nightmare? I do that now. It's sort of like, and I'm like 60 years old. So.
Well, I think it's more than that. I think it's a symbolism of control. So as a child, our life is very small. And having something that I can control when everything is out of my control, I think that was why I used to cover, my head in sheets. And I think that's why kids do it now, because they can control that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it's interesting what you said about going through the family photographs. The amount of times, and you've probably had it as podcasters as well, that people have that exact same scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody comes into the bedroom when they're young. They don't know who it is.
Mm-hmm.
The parents may or may not believe them. And then you're flicking through photographs or you see a picture on the wall and you go, it's that person there. And that person maybe died, well before you were born.
Right.
Yeah.
And how can people say that the paranormal does not exist when things like that happen?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's so weird. There are all these people that go, there's no such thing as ghosts. Okay, prove that to me.
Right.
Well, it seems like a really big coincidence, and that's the other thing, and like Gabriel was saying earlier, I was in true crime. I love true crime. That's another thing I love. And a lot of detectives in true crime cases say there's no such thing as coincidences. So it seems like a really big coincidence for that to be a reoccurring story, that people would point somebody out and say, oh, that was the person. And it just happens to be a family member.
Well, look at alien abductions. It's the same thing. A lot of people who never met have the same kind of experiences. So is it mass hysteria? Or are people actually experiencing something and other people are experiencing similar things, which does kind of give gravity to a truth, I think.
Yeah, and you mentioned mass hysteria, but it can't be mass hysteria if there's a bunch of people in the UK, there's a bunch of people in the US, there's a bunch of people in Spain or Port. That's not mass hysteria. Mm-hmm. Mass hysteria is a collection of people together that are all kind of experiencing the same thing. So I think we can cross that off the list straight away. So
that's Gabriel's explanation for Bigfoot too.
We're going to get onto Bigfoot in a minute because I've got it underlined on my notepad.
I love it.
Because
don't feed into her nonsensely. Don't do it.
Eat it.
It says here, Gabriel's an expert in Bigfoot.
Yes. Yeah. Make a star right next to that, please. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What I mean is, I've got size 44 shoes. That's a So, at what point in both of your lives did you kind of realize that, I don't know what I saw, if it was real or not, but now I've come to a point in my life where if it is real, I want to investigate it more.
Do you mind if I go, Raven?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So not too long ago, I used to live on a houseboat, me, my wife, and our child in the state of Minnesota during winter year round. I lived on a houseboat. And this houseboat, we found out after we purchased it, had a body count. And several things would happen on that boat. Like I would be in the engine room and all the lights would go off. I'd be working on something and I wouldn't quite understand it. And I was trying to figure it out. And all of a sudden, the owner's manual would just drop. And there it is, right? But the most significant thing that happened to me in that boat that I talk to my wife about all the time, and I think this goes into how do we know what really happened, is that we discuss this And I'm like, this really happened. And my wife goes, yeah. So after we moved off of the boat, we moved on land. I felt kind of guilty because our son was about 5 years old, and he was never really allowed to have kids over because we're in a houseboat. There's a liability, right? His friends can come and play. So we lived on a hobby farm, and in the process of selling the houseboat, I'd go back, and it was during wintertime, which is hard to sell a houseboat, but it's such a big boat, we left it on the water. So I went down to check it one night, and I had a cold, and I was kind of cranky. I didn't want to go there. It was like minus 25 degrees in the middle of winter in Minnesota. So I go and I chop the ice around the boat and make sure the bubblers are the ones kind of fans in the water that keep the water open around your boat so it doesn't freeze in. But when it gets really cold, you still got to go still kind of crack the ice. So I stepped on the boat, and I was checking it, and there was no power there, which means the boat was cold, means everything was frozen, and I was annoyed, and I jumped down into the engine compartment. I heard a splash, and I'm like, darn it. Now we have water coming in, and I'm getting annoyed. So I'm trying to fiddle with the batteries. I'm clicking two cables together to get sparks, and it's not working because there's no power. So there was a matchbook. So I went to go light a match, and soon as I was able to strike it, something, because it was dark, it was black, something blacker than the black that I was in, rushed me and blew it out. And I'm like, what is going on? So I did it again, and the same thing. But after the second time it happened, you have that sense that something's wrong. So, I was scared. I'm in the middle of a boat. It's late at night. So I climb out of the engine compartment and I go home for that day, and I come back about a week later, annoyed. I didn't want to deal with it till I felt better. And as I got close to my boat, I smelt gas. And so I opened my boat up, and it just got this woof of gas. So here I am trying to air it out, and I go to the engine compartment, and that puddle I jumped in was actually gas. I had a service tech winterizing my engines, and he stepped on one of the fuel lines and broke it. So whatever was there literally saved my life. There are people that lived around us. And then I had another event where we lived in a little town called Elmwood. They actually have Elmwood Days. They're known in the state of Wisconsin as a UFO capital of Wisconsin. The story of it is 1972, a sheriff witnessed an alien craft kind of come down on this buddy's the field. And that's what they're known for. It's documented. Mm-hmm. And we lived in a house, which I didn't know that story. We lived in a house not that far from that field. And when we moved there, it always felt weird. I walked in and I'm like, there's something with this farm. I don't know if we really want to live here. And my wife goes, it's a beautiful area. Let's just deal with it. We live in a boat. We want to give our son land. And that's how we ended up on a farm. And throughout living on that piece of property, my wife would see a little kid duck his head and watch her. I was in my office one day. I sat down and to do some paperwork, and this kind of a mist in shape of like a snake slithered right by me and went into my closet. I would wake up late at night to hear my son screaming because somebody was playing with his toys. It got so bad we actually put a camera in his room, and I'd sit there awake at night and I'd watch things move. So we end up moving our son into our room, but it doesn't feel real after a couple years pass. So I talked to my wife, and do you remember, did this really happen? She's like, yeah, it did. So for me, the validation is when you get to experience it with somebody. When you look back on my memories, like the boat, I could have blew myself up, and the people living in the boats next to me, something intervened, something paranormal. The gentleman that passed in that boat, he was working on his generator, and he wasn't a very good mechanic. It had a leak in the exhaust, and his wife, 2 dogs, and 2 of their friends fell asleep and never woke back up. And I remember one of my first experiences on that boat, I was working on it. And when we had to sign a waiver, which I thought was weird when we bought the boat, not to work on the generator until we had it checked out. I didn't think anything of it. And I was working on the generator, and I got it working. And then all of a sudden, all the carbon monoxide detectors went off. Just as the generator started. So little things like that. I don't think the paranormal, for me, at least in my experience, it's always negative. Some of it is actually comforting and protective.
Yeah. So one of the first questions that I have with regard to that is, did you really say darn?
Did I what?
Really say darn it?
I did.
He edited himself.
I think I said gosh darn it, actually. I put a gosh in front of it,
Yeah,
maybe.
gosh darn it.
Hey,
I'm from
potty mouth.
Minnesota.
We'll have less of that, okay?
I you know what? I will try to behave.
Yeah.
I will.
But it's interesting, like, when you were mentioning about the fumes, like, as I said on your podcast, I used to be a firefighter, and I know how combustible fumes can be. But if you've just got the liquid, you can put a lit torch into the gasoline.
Yep.
It won't ignite because it's the vapors that ignite, not the liquid itself.
Right.
So the fact that room was full of vapor, like something was definitely protecting you. But like you say, what was it? But interesting. I love that story. That is extremely cool. Raven, you'd better that. Otherwise,
I don't think
Stop that one, Raven.
Otherwise, I'm going to cut your camera.
Oh no!
Oh, please don't. Okay.
Hands up.
Hands up.
Yep. Let's do it. All right.
People will know why at the end of the episode why we keep doing
Why
this.
we do the hands up?
Yes.
I don't have a better story than that. That's why he wanted to go first.
He wanted to outshine you. That's what it is.
He was trying to outshine me. To be fair,
Doesn't take
like
much.
again, when we talked about like we doesn't. Oh,
That took you a while.
No, it did.
Okay.
Because I was thinking of how I was answering the question, and you said,
I'm sorry. That takes a lot of energy. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm not blonde anymore. Listen,
Lee, you got to help me out on this. You got to
Right.
come on.
No,
You gotta.
I want to see fisticuffs. So I'm ready for this. Yeah.
I'm violent.
Yeah. Your hand comes through to the camera.
Right.
I don't have a story like that. I only have so I come from a small town where in the town next to it, which has grown a lot, the town that's next to the town I came from, but there was nothing to do in my town. There was nothing. And we would go out and some people go and party in a field. And instead of doing that, most of the time, we would go to a even smaller town called Caryville, which is very well known around here for being
Caryville,
haunted.
Wisconsin.
Very Wisconsin. Yes, Caryville, Wisconsin. To be also pointing out that Chad Lewis, we had him on our show at one point, but Chad Lewis is an amazing paranormal investigator / author. He has books about, like places you can go in Wisconsin, and Caryville's in there. And I know that we had, looked at this book several times and tried to say, oh, where can we go and do investigate? That's what we did. We would always just go out to Caryville and, or Mary Dean, because Mary Dean had the hellhounds. So if you went out there late at night and went to the boat landing, you might see the hellhounds, or there's a little island across the way that if you went out there, there's all the stories. But that's what we did. We had nothing else to do with our time, and we went and did investigating, or 16-year-old investigating. But yeah, that's what we did. We tried to find the church and the graveyard.
I used to call it dating, but if you want to call it investigating, you go right ahead.
No, actually, the funniest part is we went out there one night there was a whole group of other kids. So it was like 2 carfuls of kids, and I had a car full, and there was another car full, and we were following the other car full, and they tried to ditch us. They took us out to the middle of nowhere, down some dirt road. We found some weird cemetery that we were all at, and then they tried to ditch us like, oh, look at you're all going to be scared now. And I mean, we made our way back, and now this is what I choose to do for fun. But
I don't know if she topped me yet, Lee. You may have to cut that camera.
I don't have a topic.
Okay, I'm just going to...
Bye, Raven.
I fall through the trap door in the bottom.
Yes.
I can't even do it.
If you fell off your chair, then I would laugh so hard.
Luckily, it's a bench
chair. The whole
chair.
table would go. Everything would fly on the ground. That'd be funny.
Oh, we'll have to see if we can do that on some video. That'd be so cool.
We need to do that.
So, would I be right in thinking that you both have been on, let's use the word, official investigations?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that actually, I did my own stuff. I don't know how much Gabriel did before we met, but I've done my own stuff. And then once we met and he said, oh, I really want to do a paranormal podcast and start doing this, I was 100% in. this is definitely something I've been interested in my whole life. My mom is, again, I bring her up a lot, but she's jealous now. 'Cause
She's
she
also a
loved it.
huge Gabriel fan, not a Raven fan, believe it or not, but a Gabriel fan.
Watches the
Hi,
show
Mom.
too.
And how much money cost his hands for her to say that?
About $20 every time I mention it.
I'm glad that you have that arrangement.
So I just knew this podcast was not going to go very well tonight.
Yeah.
I could feel it in the water.
Yeah, I can split the 20 with you, Lee. I mean, $10 a piece.
Okay.
That's pretty good, brother.
Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah. Mom, that's 20 a piece, my friend.
Yeah. So, can you remember your very first investigation? And before either of you answer, how did it compare in being there to how you anticipated that it would be?
It's a very good question, Lee.
I
Go
know,
ahead,
that's
Raven.
why I'm a podcaster.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, right.
It's a very
Yes.
no. You go first. You like to go first.
could learn
Little
so
man of the
much.
water.
I could.
What do you
Teach
think?
me sensei. You know what I mean?
Wipe on, wipe off.
Hi, Mom.
$20.
Just make it as
gonna
money,
text
Lee. That's all.
Mom, you owe Gabriel like $100 at this point.
Yeah. So for me, if I remember your question, sorry about that, Lee. The first official investigation I went on was, I remember as a child going to my great grandparents' house, and I saw a little boy hiding in the fireplace. And this was about 30 years ago. That house came up for sale. So I actually knew the realtor that had that house. It was in a small little town called Farmington, Minnesota. And so I said, hey, buddy, this sounds weird, but can I spend the night in this house? I'm thinking about buying it. This is my grandparents' house. I remember as a child. And he said, that's weird, but yeah, you can just sign a waiver. Don't break anything. I said, sure. So my first investigation was trying to see it through an adult's eyes and not a child's eyes of what I saw. And I can tell you that as a child and as an adult, I saw the same thing. And what I thought was very interesting, looking through it as an investigation, that I believe that entity remembered me as a child, because the day that I saw him, it was on Easter, and I remember this clearly. My parents used to hide little Easter eggs and stuff like that, and because I never slept very good, especially in somebody else's house. Went to go visit my grandparents because my friend that was comforting me was at my house. She didn't come to the other houses, so in that house always felt weird. As my great grandparents, it had a weird smell, weird sounds and stuff like that. And so I got up and I was looking for the candy. And I remember going downstairs, and there was a living room, and it felt colder than all the other rooms. So that intrigued me. I was scared, but there was something comforting within that cold. There's like a warmth in that cold. I remember feeling very, very cold, but it was pulling me, and that pull was warm. So I remember, looking for eggs, and something said, look on the banister. So I remember looking at the banister, and then it registered to me that something talked to me. And I turned my head, and there was this little boy that was hiding in the fireplace. And I know I got scared. I dropped all my candy, and I went to go run, and I fell, and then I woke up in my bed. And, as a child, I wondered if that really happened. But I remember I still had chocolate on my fingers for eating the candy, So I fell, and something brought me to my bed. It wasn't my grandparents, 'cause I did ask about. So as an adult, when I was, spending the night in this house, I sat in that little tiny entryway, that kind of foyer that had the fireplace. And I remember having the cold hit me again. And I remember feeling the hairs in the back of my neck, and then you'd feel it on your arms, and everything would kind of stand up. And I didn't have any equipment, right? Because there wasn't any like ghost hunters movies, anything. It was just me, which I think the human body is the best detector there is, because I think we're hardwired for flight or fight, right? So I was, as a man, I stood up, and I was trying to understand this, and I heard that little boy's voice again, and he says, "Good to see you again." And that scared me so much that I ran out of that house. As a grown man, I wasn't expecting the voice, nor was I expecting for him to remember me. So that was my first investigation, in what I feel that I thought I wouldn't get anything. I thought I would just sit there and it was the imagination of a young child on a sugar high. But the event happened again. And I do wonder if maybe there was a relative connection in that house, because I knew that that was kind of in my grandparents' bloodline a little bit.
Wow.
The only thing that I can say is you're running out that house. Your ghost friend has come to say hi,
Mhm.
and you
You
up and
ghosted him.
skedaddle.
I pieced
And it's
out.
like-
Yes,
You
It's like-
ghosted the ghost.
I did.
You jerk.
I did. But it startled me because it wasn't that I heard something. I was expecting that to be a haunted house.
Sure.
It's that it remembered me.
Hmm.
And so I started thinking, when I think the paranormal, how they see us, I think they see us as energy and not as the person. Because as a child and as an adult, we look different. But
Mhm.
I think it recognized my energy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very interesting. And I think you're absolutely right about mentioning about the energy. And people say that animals recognize you. Don't just have to be your pet dog or your pet cat.
Mhm.
You've seen stories of gorillas where someone's gone back after 20 years, or elephants,
Mhm.
and they remember those people. So why shouldn't spirits do the same?
Absolutely.
That's a fair point. Well, and they know that elephants, for example, have like a really good memory. Elephants are way smarter than we give them credit for. They're very
Like-
they have a really good memory.
And that's why Bigfoot doesn't like Gabriel or something like that.
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Bigfoot we were raising our hands for, but here we are.
Well, you started it,
Yeah.
I did.
Raven. Go
So
for it.
okay, so like I was,
Dazzle us, Raven.
oh gosh, Gabriel,
Guys like
so
a
much.
husband and wife. Jeez.
So much. But all of my like very first investigations were the ones I was talking about in Caryville when I was like a teenager, just popping around. But then, one of my first investigations, probably as an adult or somebody who was a little bit older and wanting to take it a little bit more seriously, was the Green Eye Bridge, which is another place in Wisconsin. And the story is that, at late at night, you can see these green eyes over the bridge, and that's the story, and so I went out there trying to figure out if I could find this, if I could figure it out. Me being me, I went by myself. Not always the best idea, but that's what I did. I don't have a crazy story like Gabriel. I actually have the reverse. So I am, of course, the person that goes and tries to seek these things out, where with Gabriel, as we've noticed, they just keep going to him. He is like a beacon for spirits.
And he's also a bit of a wuss.
And
Let's
he's a wuss.
put it out
He
there.
runs away, and
I
go in the
didn't pee
basement.
my pants. I ran. Completely
You-
different.
you
Peeing my
run
pants was
away.
later.
I
Yeah.
go into basements with no questions asked. I'm just like, yes, a basement, let's go.
Right.
Yes, a random bridge in the middle of the night by myself. Why not? But, I had the EMF detector, and, I started to realize something very important when it comes to the Green Eye Bridge real fast is, on that bridge, there's not a lot. You're not getting a lot of hits, except for like at the very end of the bridge over here and maybe the end of bridge over here. And what is it that's happening at the end of the bridge? So I'm sitting and trying to figure out what could be happening. I'm not getting anything else. I'm just getting hits. But what's happening is there's legit a power line that's hanging right there. And I said, oh, there it is. All of the hits. It's all coming from this power line, which also, if we know anything about that, like if you already hear a story and you think that, oh, it could be haunted, and you're already going to go out there and think, oh, look, no, there's a power line. It really was a disappointing, it was a disappointing first, we'll air quote it, first investigation, because I want to see things and experience things. And it's like, well, at least we know, that this could potentially just be that.
But the good thing is that you were able to debunk it.
Right.
And if there's so many things that people say are paranormal that you can debunk.
100%.
Yeah, you go on Facebook, like all these pictures that people, what can you see in the picture? I can see flare from the sun, or I can see smoke, or I can see something that has got a natural explanation.
Sure.
But it's the unnatural that we can't explain. Yeah, like I think I told you on your podcast where I got kind of my hand held. I cannot explain that. It felt like a child grabbed my hand, but it only happened to me. It didn't happen to my colleague, but it was only me. Can I explain that? No. But yeah, we kind of like to challenge ourselves by testing everything that is natural before we look at the paranormal or the supernatural. Like black mold, if you've got a bad enough in your house or your apartment, whatever, can cause hallucinations. Carbon monoxide can cause hallucinations. Yeah, high EMF can cause hallucinations.
Absolutely.
So it does not have to be something of a supernatural nature that's causing you issues.
100%.
I've got noises in my loft. Oh, I've got a squirrel or a raccoon. Yeah, but people will automatically go to the paranormal solution.
Oh, 100%.
Even though someone walks up and goes, nope.
If I may add to that, Lee, we recently just got back from West Virginia and Kentucky. We were in the Bigfoot Festival on the Bigfoot Festival in Red River Gorge in Stanton, Kentucky. Right?
You got it.
And we were staying in the Appalachia Mountains. And we had a little cabin because, I thought since we're there for 3 days to enjoy the Bigfoot Festival, since we're in the Appalachian Mountains, let's live in that area and see what happens. While we were getting back from the day of the Bigfoot Festival, I was just rolling some B film and just talking to the camera to let them. I was actually thanking people for coming to our booth. We had people driving 4 hours, which I thought was amazing to meet us. I wouldn't even stay 5 minutes to meet us, but this guy drove for 4 hours. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Oh, we love you.
We love you.
Yes, and thank
you. It wasn't Raven's dad, like mother.
It was her mom to come see me. I was like, yes. That's $40 a piece so far there, Lee. Anyway, so and there's actually a video of this. I was about to record it, and we were outside because this cabin had like a little kitchenette built on the side of it. And I was starting to record, and as I was recording, something caught my eye. It was a reflection. I was actually looking inside our cabin, and there was a face. And I stopped real quick, and there's actually video of that. And I actually ran into the cabin, and something jumped into the bathroom of that cabin. It's just a small little, homemade cabin. And in the Appalachian Mountains, we could feel things.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the first event. The first and second night we were there wasn't anything. But the third night, there definitely was a different feeling in that whole area. I do think folklore and superstition had a lot to do with it. But there's stuff we didn't do that you're supposed to at the Appalachian Mountains, like close your shades at night. Yeah. We didn't know that. There's actually this big, huge Indian head statue that was sitting on a buffet. I'm kind of in the living room areas. Adjacent to each have separate bedrooms, of course. But adjacent to that, there was this head. The head was there the whole time. But for some reason, this night, there was something about that head. It just didn't feel right. In fact, I walked over and kind of moved it closer to so Raven could see it from her bedroom because I wanted nothing to do with it. Yeah, exactly. And I didn't run away this time, Lee. I did pee my pants, but I didn't run away. Yeah.
But there was nothing out there, or what was out there was worse than what was in there. I don't know.
Right. Maybe and the weird thing is, in a Smoky Mountains like that, at least the foothills of it, everything's really loud at night. You have all the creatures, and then automatically when things would happen, there'd be like an energy, but yet everything would become silent. And it was so weird that we both looked at each other that happened. And I'm like, what happened to everything? Because I was trying to watch TV because they had a TV outside, and all of a sudden the volume was turned up, and the volume wasn't turned up. The background noise died.
Yeah.
And that was the creatures. And we both kind of looked at each other, and that's when I thought, well, I'm going to start wrapping up. It's getting weird out here, So I was going to say thank you for having us at the Red River Gorge, and it was a beautiful festival. But that's when I caught the entity. So a lot of stuff online, like you mentioned, definitely, people sensationalize things. Very rarely do I come across evidence that I'm like, wow. But then again, unless you're actually there, it's hard to understand the frame of mind and what was happening in the moment.
That's the
At
other
least
thing
in my
about that,
perspective.
yeah. No, that was actually a really fair point, because we do have that video up. There's a lot of people that are like, what are you talking about? When the reaction that Gabriel has in this moment is a real reaction.
Right.
And I really, unfortunately, like in his real reaction moment, he like turns the camera off and then he runs to go check and he sees something else in the bathroom. But I was like, oh, I wish we could have had that on film, because I mean, this was legit. Like, he legit had this reaction. He's very interesting, and we've done a lot of investigations and stuff together. And honestly, whenever Gabriel has something that he sees or whatever, he definitely has something happens over his face, like it takes over, and I know immediately that something's going on. Like,
well, I think it's intrigue, just like you, Lee, as a seasoned paranormal expert and podcast host, handsome guy and investigator. Yeah, keep going, and smart.
Mom's new favorite.
And I think when things happen, we run to it, and it's not to see it, but to discredit it. Because I think if you're going to be an investigator, my main job is taking away all known things that can make that happen. Noises, is the ventilation going on, right? Is there animals, like you said, of your loft? So I think people that are real credible, the first thing they go to is, what is it other than what it seems like? And once you take away what it is, what it seems is what it is.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I'm nervous now in case you interrupt me again.
Yeah.
Hands up. Oh my God, it's going to start a new trend now. One thing that I wanted to raise about that particular, though, is that the wife and I, when we watch these TV shows, it's always a case of, quick, turn your cell phone to blurry before you take the picture.
There's a special button, Lee. Right when you see that, you hit the blur.
Oh, is there? That's what they do when they capture Bigfoot.
Yeah, but then I shared a meme on Facebook the last couple of days, and it actually said, what if Bigfoot is naturally blurry and everybody's camera is absolutely fine?
So, do you want to know something really funny, Lee? That is actually a joke by comedian Mitch Hedberg, who's out of Minnesota. That was one of my favorite jokes of his. Minnesota. And he's making the rounds, or that's making the rounds again. And I'm like, oh, I love that joke. It's one of my favorites.
That is good. But it's right what you say, though, about cameras and such like. Mm-hmm. The amount of people that take pictures. Oh, I saw a face in flames. No, you didn't. I saw a face in a dark house. No, you didn't. Yeah. There's a word called pareidolia.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That a lot of people do not understand what it is and what it means. But I don't want to criticize all these people because they're genuinely thinking that it is something real, and you would break their heart if, they'd call you a troll or whatever if you said, well, actually, that's like lens flare or it's this. Mm-hmm. But there's so many people out there that think that what isn't paranormal is, and it's very difficult to break it to them gently that what you're seeing is not of a paranormal nature. It's actually natural.
Yeah.
Right.
Waveforms and lights in the sky. Yeah. Northern lights, for example. People see coloured things. It could be northern lights. It could be something completely natural.
Right.
So, Darkwoods Paranormal Podcast. Obviously, you two are, I use the term loosely, friends.
Very loosely. Yes.
We kind of get along.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
So how did you two first meet, and then how did Darkwoods Paranormal Podcast come about? I think you kind of mentioned it earlier about how it come about, but I'm getting old. It's never bedtime, so let's crack on and remind me. Yeah.
Do you want the real story? The fake story?
No. Both. No. Now you've mentioned it, I want both.
No, the story he's going to tell you is that, he was like, I want to start a podcast. No, that's a true story. Actually, we actually worked at the same place. And I was a part of a true crime podcast. Actually,
So
I did
it wasn't a prison by any chance, was
no,
it?
no.
Oh, okay. just checking. Just
It was like a prison.
Yeah. The place we worked at?
Yeah,
a library.
at the time. Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't a
Okay.
prison. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
But I was part of a true crime podcast. I loved doing true crime. Like I said before, I love true crime. And then around the same time, Gabriel was going to start his own podcast, was talking about starting a podcast, found out that I had a podcast, and then asked for some advice. I actually tried to invite him on our show, but he never did get that email, which is really funny. Till this day, I don't think you ever got the email. Because when I found out,
a crappy show.
He's got it pinned on the wall behind him.
I do.
it's like that one time. It's funny because we worked together, but we didn't really talk to each other very much. Like we saw each other like in passing, but it wasn't like we knew each other.
I had higher standards back in that daily.
Such bull. Yeah.
Next time you say him, below the belt. Okay.
Oh, she does.
Hands up.
Yeah. Hands up.
So anyway, another person that works at the same place with us basically said, oh, hey, Gabriel has a podcast. He had a business card, gave me the business card. And I said, oh, I would love to have him on the show. I love paranormal stuff. Like, I've always been really interested in that. So I sent him this email trying to like invite him on the show, which never happened. But then we actually did see each other like a week later or something. And he asked me about podcasting. And I said, oh, I can kind of give you some tips and tricks and whatever. And we started talking a little bit about podcasting. The most ironic part of this is that at the same time, so the true crime group I was in, there was about 6 of us. And I took like a 2-week break. There's a lot of stuff. I took a little bit of a break from that podcast. And by the time the 2 weeks were up, they had all gotten into a huge fight and the podcast broke up. So to be fair, one of the girls that I'm friends with from that podcast is still doing the podcast. She has another friend that does the podcast with her now, but there was such a huge blowout from this whole thing that, obviously that was pretty much done. And so Gabriel and I decided to do this one together. And
it's a love-hate relationship.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Hate, I think.
Yeah.
So
he loves me when I get guests like you on me. That's
absolutely. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. For the people that don't know, it was a last-minute gig. Well, it was like, oh dear, the person that was supposed to come on, was it the same day or the day after or something? So like, oh my God, our guest has let us down. Can anybody help? So it's like that's on Facebook, and I went, oh, go on then. Yeah,
and still one of our.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have favorites.
Excuse me.
We have favorites, Lee.
Thank you. $20. So she's got.
Love you, Mom. Okay.
Raven's now got an eye infection.
Yeah, you used to make fun of me when winking too.
Got a bit of a twitch. So how long has Darkwoods been going?
We've been going for about 2 years. I actually started it under Unbox Media LLC because what got me interested in podcasting was I think there's a genuine distrust in the news, right? I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, stuff like that. And I started listening to talk radio after 9/11. I thought it was very interesting media source. And then I started getting curious into podcasts that arrived, I think, about maybe 4 years after 9/11, around there. And then I thought it was interesting because these were real people talking about real things. And so that's what got me into podcasting. So I thought, well, to do it legally, I did it under Unbox Media LLC. And then I thought, well, what things interest me, because you enjoy something if you actually are interested in the subject matter. So I like tech, I like business, and I like the paranormal because it's been a part of me. It's nothing that I've actually wanted. It just always has been there. And it's something that has scared me and yet intrigued me at the same time. So that's what kind of got me into talking to Raven there for paranormal, because the tech stuff I can do myself, business stuff, absolutely. Because I'm a big Tesla guy. I like robots, only because I find in the business world, it's getting harder and harder to recruit, and to subsidize that, people are creating systems and robotics that'll do the jobs that it's very hard to fill. And I always found that very interesting. Where there's a need, someone will come up with the answer, and I love that. So I do that, but I thought, paranormal, I kind of would like a buddy. And as you know, Lee, you have to trust the person that you're with. And Raven, to her credit, is very trustworthy. She's just like me, where she doesn't sensationalize things. She's the first one that'll run to the basement, and then I have to remind her, would you like some way of communicating in case something's wrong, and a flashlight? Because here's the thing. She brings up Bigfoot all the time, and I explained it very easily to her. If we ever went Bigfoot hunting, the good thing is, see, Raven's like 3'2" or something. So I would pick her up, throw her at Bigfoot. Bigfoot would eat her as I ran away.
Yeah,
so if you look at our relationship, it's more of a need. In case anything ever happens, Raven will be left for dead as I get away.
I'm taking one for the team, Lee, is essentially what it is. Yes. I'm taking one for the team.
You can borrow her for that, because she'll fit right in your pocket, Lee. And you just give her a little bit of crumbs, because she's so tiny. That's what she eats. It'll be
5'2".
You do realize that there's actually a sport about throwing little people.
I'd like to see you try, Gabriel.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned robots, because the department that I work in, part of our job is to renew ID cards for people, and we get quite a few requests a day, and it gets really boring. So I've started, when I get brand new people coming in for their first day on the job, I always go to them, well, in some of these websites that you have to prove that you're not a robot. And they're accompanied by their manager, and they go, yeah. So like, can you tell me how many chairs there are in the room? And they go like, oh, 3. No, there's 5. No. So like, I'm sorry, I can't prove or deny that you're not a robot. I'm sorry, can't give you your ID card. Sorry.
I love that. That's amazing.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's very good.
So the fact that you've been doing it for 2 years, do you both have one particular episode that's left you either startled, and afterwards you're going, oh my God, did we really have that conversation? Or it's been spine chilling? Or if you get asked this question, you always go back to the same episode? And before you answer, so I'll give you a little bit more time to think, I interviewed a guy that is American, but he's lived in Thailand for a long time. So he's got the Thailand kind of like priest training and all that, and he's an exorcist and all that kind of stuff. And he was telling me a story of a girl that he was seeing at the time. She found a pendant. I can't remember where it was. It might have been in a vacant house. She brought it home to his apartment. She put it on, and then within a matter of minutes, she flipped back into the crab position.
Oh, wow.
And then walked up the wall backwards.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's like, holy crap. Yeah, for somebody to experience that. Yeah, and I believe the guy. There's no reason for me not to believe him. But that was kind of like a jaw-dropping moment. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And it was so kind of like a wow moment that if people ask me that question, that's the one that I always go to. So now that you've had time to think,
oh gosh,
and obviously Raven's now thinking about food.
I love food. How'd you know?
There we go. Yes.
Because I mentioned crumbs in pockets.
Yeah. Pocket crumbs,
So,
my favorite.
who's got one?
You want to go Raven, or should I?
Gosh, that's a really tough question, and
It's a very good question, Lee.
it's a very good question, and I feel like Gabriel's going to one-up me again, but I kind of want to start with, I don't know if it really answers the question of like something insanely crazy that happened during the interview, because we do, you know, we have some that are not interview episodes as well, but then we also have interview episodes, and I do love the interview episodes because I love talking to people and I love hearing their stories. And but one of, I would say, the craziest or best things I think that has happened in one of our episodes is that I'm going to bring up Chad Lewis. We had Chad Lewis on, and he's got over 30 books at least of, you know, paranormal places to go, all of these paranormal things. And I cannot remember for the life of me the name of it was another bridge. It wasn't the Green Eye Bridge, but it was another bridge. And this bridge, there is the ghost of a woman named Mary that says to haunt the bridge. She was actually murdered. This is a true story. Like back in the 70s, this woman was murdered. They found her body underneath the bridge. And so now, of course, they say that she haunts the bridge. That wasn't the crazy part of the story. The crazy part of the story is that they actually ended up, I mean, this was in the 70s. So this many years later, finally catching the killer. He actually confessed to the murder. He's actually now sitting in prison for the murder of this woman. And I think the craziest part for me was the fact that when Chad was telling us the story, this wasn't a huge case in this area. This wasn't something that people, you know, really talked about. The person that talks about this case all the time is Chad Lewis because of this haunting. So because of his work in the paranormal field, this case actually did still have some sort of attention. I guess attention would be the word, attention to it, so that now, this many years later, they were actually able to solve it. But it was because of the work that he kept doing and bringing attention to that case, not even on purpose, but kind of on purpose, if you know what I'm saying. So for me, as a true crime person, as a paranormal person, I was like, that is an amazing thing to do. And you just would have to be so proud of yourself to actually be able to say, hey, it's because I've been bringing attention to this case that now it's solved. So for me, that was a huge, like, wow, that's amazing kind of moment.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, being in the emergency services, I've been to crime scenes. And it's sort of like, once a crime scene happens and it gets cleared up, they may or may not find the perpetrator. Yeah. But if they can't, it could go dead, and that's it. And
really
then,
fast.
It gets cleaned up. People move on. People sell the house or whatever. Next family move in, and it's forgotten. But at least with that, it's like, because Chad kept mentioning it, the fact, and it's sort of like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and to me, like it's the same thing with like paranormal like stories. If you're telling, you're bringing attention to the cases. I mean, there's a lot with the Villisca axe murder house, of course, where people there's a lot of drama sometimes in that. But at the end of the day, like, they're still giving somewhat, hopefully, we know that it's a lot of the time very overdone in this field, but they're still bringing attention to something that happened that was tragic, and those people still have their name out there. So
that's it. And the fact that Gabriel mentioned about energy earlier, the fact that these stories are repeated time and time again, is it that energy that's it's keeping the story alive,
right?
But is it also keeping the spirit alive as well?
Yeah,
right.
And it could be. I 100% believe that could be something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, big man, over to you.
Well, I have a different story than Raven does. For me, it's meeting the people like Yuli and like others that we have met along the way that I find that sticks out to me the most. Also, on the other side, the disappointment I have gone getting into the paranormal field, that it seems to be a money grab in a lot of instances. You go to these houses, you rent these houses. Sometimes they're $800-900, $1,200 to rent, and you go in. They have these damn teddy bears. Dang teddy bears! I know you hate that dang teddy bears everywhere, and they try to reenact something scary. And for me, if you have a haunted house, and I love history, so going into these facilities, I don't mind paying the price for, because they reinvest it and they help restore these beautiful old locations. And I love that because I'm a big history guy. But at the same time, my disappointment when in this field, when I go to these places, is they try to create something that it's not. If it's a haunted, beautiful location, let it be a haunted, beautiful location. Don't put dolls on swings or have a doll room, because that's the most haunted thing. Because I do think that distracts people from the history and the momentum that there might actually be a paranormal entity in that location. And I think what it does as an after effect, I think it creates dysfunction in the paranormal worlds, because you have these investigators coming in and they're trying to create something that's not there, and sometimes they bring things and they manifest things that aren't there. And I think that could be very distracting for people that are curious, like yourself, Lee, and me, and Raven, that in the truth that is paranormal, and not something that's been creative because they can rent a building for $800 for 6 hours.
Yeah, because we do, like, I call it pay to play kind of thing.
Yep, absolutely.
But a couple of the locations close by here are old jails.
Oh, yeah.
And they're pretty much how they were when they were closed.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't decorated.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it's all the fixtures and fittings are the original ones. So you've got that ambience, whatever you want to call it, of how it used to be when it was a running prison. And the same with the houses. So don't put, like you said, don't put fake items.
Right.
Just to give that ambience of this is haunted and this kind of, because you're going to give people false hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just as good to go to a cemetery and pick up a single EVP, and you've had a really great night, that you go to a house that looks the most spookiest in the world and you get absolutely nothing.
Absolutely, Lee.
Yeah. We went to a they call it a manor, but it's a guy's house. Mm-hmm. And in the bottom floor of his house, he's a Victorian circus entertainer, if you like. And he's got like a replica of the Elephant Man. He's got a replica of a body in a glass crypt and stuff like this. And it's like a Victorian parlour kind of evening. And he was talking about this little girl that murdered her parents after finding her father having an affair. She like stabbed her dad and she got incarcerated. And he basically simulated a seance to kind of get her to communicate as part of the parlor tricks. Right. And there was a box on a stand, and he said, "Oh, this is some of her personal belongings in this box." And it got two wooden doors wrapped together, closed by twine, and then on top of the box there was a crucifix. He made the excuse to go out the room for something. The crucifix flies off the box.
Oh.
And then you literally see the twine unwind itself. Oh. The doors fly open, and then things start coming out the box. And I'm sat next door to this stand with a box, and I'm pulling the twine. I'm thinking it's real twine. Right. The doors are like, how the hell did he do it? But it was such a fun evening. Yeah, and it was like, one of those Victorian parlor tricks kind of thing. And the way that he did it was absolutely fantastic. And it was so cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was absolutely it was a great evening. It really was. It was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, but the house itself is as spooky as shit. Yeah, let's get it out there. So, I know we've been talking for an hour and 5 minutes.
Feels like 5 minutes. Absolutely does. For me, at least.
And we haven't put our hands up for at least 5 more.
Nope.
So there we go. So if people are wondering why we do that, Raven went under the table before we started. So she
Yeah.
She wanted to see where my fan was.
Yes.
And that's all I'm going to say.
Yep.
And so now that's a check, you know.
Well, I'm letting Lee know it's not me when Raven has her hands underneath the desk.
Her excuse was, "Oh, sorry, I fell off my chair."
Yes.
I did.
Yep.
I did fall off my chair.
It was a poor excuse. Poor excuse.
It's a terrible excuse, and he called me out on it.
I did. We did. So, yeah, the US is renowned for having a lot of haunted locations. You've got a few big ones near you, but have you actually been to any of the big names locations? And if you hold that breath, and before you answer, did you actually experience anything, or was it a washout?
I know we're thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So
3, 2.
I prefer to go to places that have that are not well known. The reason being is because I find it to be more real. All the places that are well known, big names, we've been to. Kansas City is littered with a bunch of them, and there's a lot of disappointment in those areas, and there's a lot of sensationalization that is associated with those. So for myself, I actually prefer the small unknown things that they're not well documented, because it's very hard to go into a place that's well documented and document something differently, right? Because, I heard a voice and there's 600 people that said we heard the voice too, right? I got it this way, I got it that way. It said, my lucky number, whatever, right? Because they're always trying to one up you. But when you go to a place that's not as commercialized, I find that there's a realism in that, because you're the first one to catch things. Things are more relaxed. Things are more static, because you get all these people going in. And if there is a thought process behind the paranormal, I would think that they get tired of people trying to catch stuff. So I think maybe also with kinds, everybody investigates differently, and some are very rude about it. So I think that's a turnoff as well. So by going into a fresh place that doesn't have all that negativity of people trying to stir things up that aren't there, or bringing, their own baggage in there, I just find it more satisfaction going into a place that hasn't been well documented. Then we can start the documentation process for me.
And what I always tell people is, if they do exist, because we haven't got concrete evidence that they do, but if ghosts and spirits do exist, they are not performing monkeys.
No, they're not.
And these locations every Friday night, every Saturday night, and you get every man and his dog and his teddy bears turning up. See what I did there? Every man and his dog and his teddy bear.
I heard it.
I like it.
Yeah. That's good.
And, like you say, you've got arrogant investigators.
Yep.
You've got the ghost hunters that want to just go out and get scared, and they don't care about the evidence. If they get real evidence, they could just blow it off. But then you get the true paranormal investigators that want to document the evidence. They want to experience whatever it is people are experiencing, and they will come away with a smile on their face if they've got a positive hit.
Right.
Yep. And to be said, I mean, Gabriel says, and I agree. I love going into more of a residential or something that's not very well known. However, get me in the Winchester house. I would love that.
I would love to go to the Winchester house. Have you been, Lee?
Listen.
I have not, but we know that Raven would fall because of all these unlevel floors. And it's like, oh, there's just stairs there that are not finished. Where's Raven?
Oh, sorry, Lee. That was on your desk. Sorry about that. Right, Raven?
Thought that was a basement I was just trying to go into.
Right.
No, but I love, but again, I love things like that. That place, such a mysterious place. I love the history of it, even though it makes no sense. I would go into a lot of those places as well. So I love doing stuff that's not super well known, but I also love doing stuff that has that little bit of a history or a story to it too.
Yeah. So. And one thing that I would like to do, and obviously it's going to cost a lot of money, is when you see these locations on TV that these like let's call them famous, even though they're kind of not, but let's call them famous investigators go to, and they get so much activity.
Yes, yeah.
I would like to go the week after. Because if you guys have got this much genuine activity, the chances are that if I go there the week after, I'm going to get some genuine results.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be ramped up.
And it's exactly. And it's like, what are the chances of you having the same amount of evidence, or would you be able to disprove some of the evidence that they've put out there?
I would say that there's a lot of things that are made for TV. You could disprove a lot of things. We like to say the Zach Bagans of it all, because I think a lot of stuff that is on watchable TV is sensationalized.
It's very
And can you imagine sort of like, I've got this genuine EVP, have a listen to it, and the producer goes, can you just do that again? We want a different camera.
Right. We didn't get it good enough the first time.
That's not how it works.
No.
And the camera's always right where it needs to be before something happens. And a lot of times, a lot of the stuff happens, as you know, Lee, when you're setting things up or taking things down. In fact, we have a good friend named Johnny Vortex that builds a lot of these machines that'll catch things. And he has a theory that there's a noise that resonates from it, and it kind of scares away paranormal activity because they can hear it. It's at a frequency that disturbs them. So that's why I think, for me at least, I get a lot of activity before the stuff is on and after it's turned off, because I think there is maybe a radiation or a noise that does kind of bleed through that is distracting.
Agreed. And I was talking to a guy that goes hunting for Bigfoot and Sasquatch, and he literally said exactly the same, that they can see us and hear us way before, and they sort of like, we're seeing them go, oh, more humans, nope,
right,
it's too noisy. Okay, guys, so we are coming towards the end, but I've got one question for Raven.
Oh boy.
Does Gabriel ever admit that he's got mediumistic skills?
Oh, I think he doesn't quite admit that, but he does admit that he is a beacon for things. He does admit that, and I don't know if he realized that until after we met or not. But he does.
Because if
he can pick up on.
Excuse me, we're talking about you.
We're talking about you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if someone sees, if someone hears, if someone senses, they've got mediumistic skills.
I don't think he's ever even put those things together. I think, to be honest, Gabriel was just trying to live through life, and all of these things just kept coming at him like, hey, and I think now he may have finally accepted it, besides the fact that he runs away.
So the fact that I've now asked you, shall we ask him or shall I just move on?
You can ask him. I say ask him.
Okay. Gabriel.
So, if I may,
No, you may not.
He didn't ask you the question.
About 3 years ago, I was in a really bad motorcycle accident. I was rear-ended by a truck. The truck was going 65, 70. I was going 35, and I was on brand new Harley Davidson, and he rear-ended me. And I remember flipping the bike a couple times, and I remember seeing these beautiful pieces of my motorcycle go flying everywhere. And then I remember something cradling me and setting me down on the ground unharmed. I had maybe two scratches, and it bothered me. I'm being an investigator. And I think this actually what kicked off the whole paranormal thing, is because I realized how precious life is and how quickly it can be taken from you. It's the only time that I was on my bike that I was not wearing a helmet. And I remember it bothered me because the only time I was not wearing a helmet, I was in a motorcycle accident. And months went by and it kept on festering in my head. And then one day I truly do believe I heard God talk to me, because I was asking why no scratches, my motorcycle was messed up. Why? I mean, what's special about me? And I remember hearing this voice in my head, and I wish I could remember exactly what it said. I don't think at least for me, I don't think I was supposed to remember word from word, but I was supposed to remember the meaning of it. I remember when I heard this voice, I felt incredibly loved and warmed in a way that I really do not have the words to explain it. But I remember after this event, it seemed so clear, and it was in this voice, I believe was the voice of God, was very humorous. And from that moment on, I realized I've never truly walked alone in this world. So all those times I was scared, there was always something there that was comforting me. And then I started looking at life a little differently. I'm a man of faith, so I have no question in my head what happens when my soul leaves this meat suit. But what fascinates me is the difference of what I learned in church and what I experience as an investigator. And even though I don't doubt my faith, I do find it interesting of things that do happen. And whether it's purgatory, Catholic religion believes that if things are really bleeding through, whether it be a parallel dimension, that's what keeps me investigating, is because I'm not looking for the answers. I'm just enjoying the ride that it takes me on, meeting beautiful people like you, Lee, becoming great friends with Raven Knight. We met wonderful people like chumming with the spirits. And then we met a lot of people that we decided that that's just not who we want to be with, only because of different ways they investigate and the different ways they approach things. So I'm never really looking for the answer, and I don't think there's anything special about me. I think that we all have a wonderful ride through this life that we have, and we just experience it differently.
Why didn't you say all that, Raven?
Hold on, can we go back? Can we rewind that? I will go back.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect answer. I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying no. But there's something, but I don't know what it is, which is absolutely fine. But just before we finish, talking about motorbikes, Google motorbike hanging off traffic light bar, because in I think it was BC a few weeks ago, motorbike got taken out by a car with such force, and the rider survived. The motorbike took off, and the bars of the traffic lights, it latched itself and it was hanging.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually on.
Yeah,
it's true. People thought it was AI, but it's actually, it was in BC somewhere.
Wow.
That is crazy.
That is so cool. Raven,
crazy.
Gabriel, it's been an absolute blast.
Absolutely.
My fan has continued to work, and I'm nice and cool. hands above the table. I'm so happy that I was able to appear on your podcast, and in turn, you've now been on mine. I think we're going to stay friends for a very long time. At least me and you will, Raven. And as I said on your podcast, and Raven agreed that, Gabriel, you've got the perfect face for radio. So that's.
I've heard that more than once, Lee. Thank you for bringing it up again. That's great.
That's what he tells people now too.
Gabriel sent me a message, mentioned the radio thing again. But guys, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for the experience.
Hopefully, in the future, we'll have you back on and we'll talk some more, winging it for the entire evening.
Absolutely.
But for now, guys, what? Go on.
I'm just going to say thank you for
You're a
having
woman.
us.
You have to have a last word, don't you?
Yes, finally recognized. Thank you, Lee. I was just going to say thank you for having us on. No, we loved having you on. I think you're an amazing person, and you are not just an amazing person, you're an amazing host. So I've had a blast. I can't speak for my co-host here, but I've had a blast.
It's true. I am amazing.
You are amazing.
But guys, thanks very much. You have a great rest of the evening. Take care now.
Thank you, sir.
You too, Lee.
Bye-bye.